today we are in chapters 29 through 32 of the Tao Te Ching. And this one I found really poignant. Definitely made me think. Starting in chapter 29 of the Stephen Mitchell translation. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. Chapter 30. Whoever relies on the Tao in governing men doesn't try to force issues or defeat enemies by force of arms. For every force, there is a counterforce. Violence, even well intentioned, always rebounds upon oneself. The master does his job and then he stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he believes in himself, he doesn't try to convince others. Because he is content with himself, he doesn't need others' approval. Because he accepts himself, the whole world accepts him. Chapter 31. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them, except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. And chapter 32. The Tao can't be perceived. Smaller than an electron, it contains uncountable galaxies. If powerful men and women could remain centered in the Tao, all things would be in harmony. The world would become a paradise. All people would be at peace, and the law would be written in their hearts. When you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their functions should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. All things end in the Tao as rivers flow into the sea. This whole thing was really powerful this week, especially with the energies that are going on in the cosmos. I don't know about you, but I've felt over the last couple of weeks that there's been some kind of volatile or hostile energy building. And then, of course, we're seeing that in, world conflicts. There's a lot of things going on. The thing that happened in France to that teacher, the protests in London, the attacks in Gaza, like it's just been bananas. And I think that um, the lesson this week is incredibly pertinent.
Sounds it.
All right, so let's start in the annotated and explained edition by Derek Lynn. Those who wish to take the world and control it, I see that they cannot succeed. The world is a sacred instrument. One cannot control it. The one who controls it will fail. The one who grasps it will lose. Because all things either lead or follow, either blow hot or cold, either have strength or weakness, either have ownership or take by force. Therefore, the sage eliminates extremes, eliminates excess, eliminates arrogance. So this is an interesting translation compared to the other one. The other one, I got these undertones of kind of like what Solomon is talking about. I believe it's in Ecclesiastes where he's saying there's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. Everything has a purpose. Um, and it kind of ebbs and flows, right? And here we're seeing this um to me, this imagery of the sacred instrument really struck a chord. So I want to go look at the annotations. Let's look at number one. This view of the world as a sacred instrument dates back tens of thousands of years, long before the appearance of the term Tao. This common belief has been passed down by oral tradition in cultures throughout the world. As Native American spiritual traditions demonstrate, when we revere the sanctity of the world, we naturally feel a deep connection with nature and see ourselves as a part of it, not apart from it. And that this is the image that it gave me. Okay. In my mind, this is what I saw, how we are affected by this beautiful music from the sacred instrument of our universe, not just planetary elements, but even the people that exist in it, the plants, the animals, just the whole experience of living is this beautiful, intricate melody and harmony and rhythm. There's a lot of music to life. And to know that we are a part of it and not apart from it is comforting. Yeah, comforting. That's what I would say.
I would agree.
It's like it's all going to be a beautiful symphony anyway, so just go with it. The Tao is all about balance. These descriptions depict the complementary balance that exists in nature, where different creatures play different roles and all are necessary components in the interconnected web of ecology. So, again, that balance that we keep seeing as the theme, right? Creatures that have ownership are the ones that occupy their own environmental niche. Creatures that take by force are the predators who survive by hunting prey. That's an interesting visual when you think of the different types of people in the world. There are people who are, you know, comfortable and at peace in their surroundings and in harmony with their element. And then there are others who are like predators that are hunting people, so to speak. I don't mean literally, but uh, this it's all about me kind of mentality. People are willing to step on other people and do whatever they can to get ahead. Those are kind of predatory people, especially when they prey on the kindness of others. Let us emulate the natural balance of the Tao. Like the sages, we too can live in accordance with the principle of moderation. This chapter gives us three simple ways to behave: reduce extremes, avoid excess, and let go of arrogance. So I wanted to kind of bring in some symbolism here. If we look at this image of the Kabbalistic tree of life, we see this balance between mercy and severity, right? And the path in the middle is the one that we want to maintain. And interestingly enough, it leads up to the crown. Now, it could go the opposite way. We could descend down that, but ideally, we want to be moving up and staying in balance. And we see that same symbolism in the cross. We see that same symbolism right here. So, keeping the balance is something that has long been understood in this context. Oh, sorry, go back one. This was well before the Tao was ever written, or the Bible, or the Quran, or anything like that. This is an ancient truth. This balance. Those who try to seize power and remake society will fail. Society is a divine thing that cannot be remade. One who attempts to remake it will only deface it. Those who grasp for power will lose it. People differ. Some lead, others follow. Some are passionate, others are reserved. Some are strong, others are weak. Some succeed, others fail. The wise respect the roles of all and seek moderation in all things. I happen to think that moderation in all things is a good thing.
Yes, very much so.
All things in moderation. Any thoughts, any comments,
No,
questions?
I would say I very much agree with it. It resonates a whole lot to me, and especially the moderation and balance in all of it.
Mhm.
When you're able to see the roles that everything plays, and you can see the good and the bad in a neutral and objective consciousness, then it's not, there
It's not
is
good and
peace
bad.
and contentment.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting, the either lead or follow. There's a term in Christianity that's, they call it lukewarm, where you're kind of riding the fence halfway between being holy and being a heathen. Um, but I don't think that being in the center, in the balance, is necessarily balancing your heathenry um with your holiness. I think it's more about understanding that you have a nature that could descend into chaos or fear, anger, worry, doubt, whatever, and choosing not to entertain that, but starving it entirely, in a dire circumstance. If someone is trying to accost you and your family or something, of course you're going to take action, but generally speaking, you just kind of want to let things happen the way they do. It's very strange, because at some point you have to ask, well, I believe that evil persists when good men do nothing. And how do I reconcile that belief with allowing things to play out in the world without my influence? Because no action is still action.
Yes, very much agree with that.
Like, how do I reconcile that? Because I mean, if you see someone getting beat up on the street, you just do nothing about it.
That wouldn't be in my nature. But
Exactly.
then I feel that though we all still do play a part. So if we are choosing action in that, like, there's so many different perspectives to look at in that scenario. If someone were to take inaction, the imprint that it's putting in their memory and how it's going to affect them later in life, the person that it's happening to have the experience happen to them,
Mhm.
seeing people watching and not helping them, the impact that's going to have, the karma that all of them are creating in general, the
Mhm.
person who's causing the harm. And I think more of the inaction is like the world, the ethereal and natural world around it, separate from people, is what's usually, I don't know. We're all connected, but people are a beast of a different color than like animals and insects.
Yeah.
And I feel that all of those different actions and inactions are all consequently something that's going to play a part later down the road, even
Yeah.
if it doesn't look like it in
The
the immediate.
ripples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm. Caleb and I were just talking about that today about the butterfly effect, and he was talking about if molecules are always moving and then something just completely stopped moving and reached absolute zero, how that could be cataclysmic for all the other molecules around it. And I think of it more as kind of like a ripple effect, like they would bounce off, but they would probably just bounce backwards again. So it would alter the fabric of everything. And I think that people don't realize that everything we do, everything we say, everything we think alters the fabric of everything. It's like we're all weaving together this tapestry,
Hmm.
and we can put good threads in so that it all holds together. We can put bad threads in so that it all falls apart.
I would most definitely agree with you. I think it's a Native American story that talks about spiders.
Oh, the
And-
weaver, yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I
I,
get
I
that card a
definitely,
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have a very different perspective on, um, I agree with that in regards to spiders. And it's funny because one of the biggest things that drew me to the quantum world long, long time ago, when Discovery Channel and Nat Geo was actually great channels.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a Nova episode that was on string theory, and I was just sold once I watched that. I was like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. But all those strings, I mean, if you combine it with the story of the weaver, the spider, and even in regards to the ripples, in regards to butterfly effect, it all seems to really work like that picture you created, very much orchestrating our reality through vibrations and frequencies that is music.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Oh, you woke up and had my phone. Hi.
All
Hang on.
right. Sorry about that. Okay. Chapter 30. The one who uses the Tao to advise the ruler does not dominate the world with soldiers. Such methods tend to be returned. The place where the troops camp, thistles and thorns grow. Following the great army, there must be an inauspicious year. A good commander achieves result, then stops and does not dare to reach for domination. Achieves result, but does not brag. Achieves result, but does not flaunt. Achieves result, but is not arrogant. Achieves result, but only out of necessity. Achieves result, but does not dominate. Things become strong and then get old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao soon ends. Ooh. This feels very promising in light of world events. I'm trying to not speak too much on them just because I don't know what could get us uh, another hit on the channel. So, but I'm sure you guys know it's what I'm talking about today, Saturday, October 14th, on the world stage. So, all right, annotation number 1. This chapter expresses Lao Tzu's position against the military and violence in general. Those who are in tune with the Tao understand that violence begets more violence. Acts of aggression will inevitably cause retaliation and counterattack. This is as true between nations as it is between individuals. So, also pertinent advice in our own lives that if we are aggressing against people or situations in our own lives, then it may very well be retaliated. Good advice for me in light of the neighborhood situations as well. All right. Um, chapter 20, or I'm sorry, annotation 2. The use of military power is, by its very nature, extremely negative. The thistles and thorns that flourish where the troops strike camp are symbolic of the negativity. On a personal level, the camp represents the place in the heart where we harbor resentment and bitterness. The thorns represent the emotional poison that inevitably festers there. Katie, I feel like you have some sort of insight to share with us on that particular sentiment with the thorns in the heart. Anything?
Given my current circumstances, I've been trying to pull thorns out of my heart, but with pulling them out, I have gained a lot of wisdom and growth, especially spiritually. And I do feel throughout our life, as unfortunate as the experiences may be, they are necessary for us to become who we're meant to be in all of this orchestration.
Well, and I think you have a unique experience too with your line of work where you are actually helping people to remove these thorns of emotional poison in their heart.
Very much so. I want to see everybody succeed.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our birthright is happiness. All of us are meant to be creators and to be happy. So I am diligently working towards helping those who are ready for that, so they could be they could embody their highest self.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a wonderful job of it, my dear.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Annotation number 3. This passage makes it clear that although Tao cultivators are against violence, they are not pacifists. They will do everything possible to avoid conflict and yet remain ready and capable when backed into a corner. Many of the greatest generals and martial artists in history were disciples of the Tao. They were dedicated to peace, but they were also devastating in combat. They used force only when they had no other choice, and once they achieved an intended result, they would go no further. To them, victory was not something to flaunt or even celebrate. Um, I really like this, and I have conversations about this frequently with the kids because, you know, what we're seeing going on in our neighborhood, on the one hand, we want to see justice served, but we do have to be aware of the fact that we should not be rejoicing in someone else getting their comeuppance. I mean, yes, justice should be served, but it's none of our business. You know what I mean? So, and I think it helps to kind of detach from that as well, that we don't need to be in everyone else's business all the time, because I think then that kind of connects us to that energy, and then we're carrying around their baggage without even realizing it. And it's probably better for us to not be in everybody else's business, but we should definitely not be celebrating um, the plight of our enemies. All right. This observation from nature that things grow strong and then age and perish can be applied to the rise and fall of empires throughout history. Time and time again, ambitious nations become powerful, exert their will on other nations through force, and then decay from within. Empires never last, just as all things contrary to the Tao never last. On a personal level, we can learn from this by living life with deliberate skill. Instead of aggression, we use courtesy. Instead of heavy handed tactics, we use a light touch. Instead of forcing our will on others, we build consensus and harmonious teamwork. So you see, I have a little heart over here because that one was good. But all things contrary to the Tao. So here's my little note. We are seeing this happen in several countries around the world right now, but especially here in the United States at this particular moment. Interestingly, this does seem to be coinciding with the nation's Pluto return, as it tends to with other empires. So, should I say, with the fall of other empires. So, we shall see. But if this empire does fall, it will be probably best for everyone the world over. Might be a struggle at first, but we'll get through it. Anyway, all things contrary to the Tao never lasts, and we know that much of what we are seeing in the world is contrary to the Tao, contrary to God, contrary to spirit, contrary to our own higher nature, our own humanity. So, chapter 31. A strong military, a tool of misfortune. All things detest it. Therefore, those who possess the Tao avoid it. Honorable gentlemen, while at home, value the left. When deploying the military, value the right. The military is a tool of misfortune, not the tool of honorable gentlemen. When using it out of necessity, calm detachment should be above all, victorious, but without glory. Those who glorify are delighting in the killing. Those who delight in killing cannot achieve their ambitions upon the world. Auspicious events favor the left, inauspicious events favor the right. The lieutenant general is positioned to the left, the major general is positioned to the right. We say that they are treated as if in a funeral. Those who have been killed should be mourned with sadness. Victory in war should be treated as a funeral. Um, so I think that um, I think that this is kind of confusing to a Westerner. What I mean by that is this reference to left and right. And our annotation for this actually explains this a little bit better because for us, we would be like, wait, what? The left does this and the right does that. This actually makes it very clear. So follow along with me on these annotations. Number one, this is a clear, uncompromising denouncement of the military. Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching when China was descending into the chaos of warfare. So chances are he observed its horrors firsthand. Number two, the ancient Chinese observed that it was usually the right hand that wielded weapons. So they associated the right side with violence and the left with peace. This is quite different from the Western association of the right with goodness and the left with negativity. Sinister is Latin for the left. So it's interesting that our perception of right and left is inverse here. And I'm going to stop there for a second because I want to hear if you have any thoughts about that. And I want to hear about your comment here, breakdown before the breakthrough.
Oh, that was just when you were talking about Pluto's return.
Uh, yeah.
So, we will all get through it. So even if things seem like they're falling apart, they're just falling apart so they could come together better.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm dealing with a baby climbing on everything.
You're good. Okay. Um, do you have any thoughts about the switch between left and right? How in the Eastern culture the association with left and right would be opposite. Like we would think generally left is the bad side and right is the good side, but they think about that the opposite way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're always inside, you know. They think we're the bad side. Well,
Mm, be careful with those words. Um, so number three, when forced to use the military, honorable individuals do so with detachment. They do not fight out of anger or hatred. And when they achieve victory, they do not consider it glorious. Number four, those who glorify war may think they have what it takes to conquer the world, but history shows they invariably fail to achieve their ambitions. They may dominate by force temporarily, but they never win the people's hearts. And this is where we're at right now in the world, my friends. So, this is a beautiful thing. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Get your popcorn. Number five, with our understanding of how the ancient Chinese viewed left and right, we can easily decode this section. Auspicious events should be peaceful and harmonious, while inauspicious events are often linked with violence. The lieutenant general, responsible for the peacetime training of the military, is situated to the left of the emperor. The major general, responsible for leading attacks, is stationed to the right. So that really does give us some clarification. And we'll go back and we'll look at that again in just a moment. Uh, Annotation 6. Because both generals represent the military, we regard them as if they are fixtures in a funeral. The term funeral in this context is also used as a generalized mourning for the many lives that are inevitably lost in battle. We grieve for these lives, no matter which side of the battle they fought on. We see the victory parade in the aftermath of war as a funeral march, no matter which side happens to be the victor. So, no matter who wins, who loses, none of it's good. So, again, honorable gentlemen, while at home, value the left. When deploying the military, value the right. So now we have a little bit better understanding what's going on here, right? Auspicious events favor the left, inauspicious events favor the right. Why? Because the right is the violence. The lieutenant general is positioned to the left, the major general is positioned to the right, and that provides us our clarity. So I found the annotations quite helpful for that particular chapter. Also, this happens to be named Avoid War in the Sam Torod translation. Among all tools, weapons alone are cursed. All men come to despise them. Those who follow Tao do not need them. Weapons are not the tools of the wise. Only as a last resort do the wise use them. Peace and tranquility are valued by wise rulers. Even when victorious in battle, they do not rejoice, for they never exult over the killing of others. Those rulers who rejoice over killing others will never bring happiness to their people. The killing of others fills the people with sorrow. We lament with tears because of it and honor the victors solemnly, as if we were attending a funeral ceremony. So, very somber mentality around war, and rightfully it should be. War brings out the worst in humanity and presents atrocities unimaginable to the world. Where to stop? This is fitting after that last verse. The Tao, eternally nameless, its simplicity, although imperceptible, cannot be treated by the world as subservient. If the sovereign can hold on to it, all will follow by themselves. Heaven and earth, together in harmony, will rain sweet dew. People will not need to force it, it will adjust by itself. In the beginning, there were names. Names came to exist everywhere. One should know when to stop. Knowing when to stop, thus avoiding danger. The existence of the Tao in the world is like streams in the valley flow into rivers and the ocean. That's kind of a choppy way to word that, but okay. All right. Number one, to call the Tao nameless is to emphasize its eternal nature. The Tao was present long before there were humans around to name names. It will continue to be present after humans are gone and all the names have long been forgotten. Number two, the sovereign can mean the emperor of China or a generic ruler. The later can mean you too, because you are the ruler of your inner kingdom. When the ancient emperor ruled China with the Tao, the people followed of their own accord. When you wield the Tao to govern your life, every aspect of it, mental, spiritual, physical, will also fall into line naturally. Woo! I'm going to read that one more time. When you wield the Tao to govern your life, every aspect of it, mental, spiritual, physical, will fall into line naturally. How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? I choose the word effortless.
That's a great word to use.
The ruler of your inner kingdom. Woo. Number three, sweet dew is a metaphor for good fortune. Raining sweet dew means an abundance of good fortune. When we hold on to the Tao, everything seems to fall into place. Plans progress smoothly. People come to our aid, and things somehow work out in our favor more often than not. It is as if heaven and earth are actively helping us by granting us extra luck. Thus, the rain of sweet dew. Yes, it does. It does happen to us all the time. It happens to Katie too. It's been happening to Katie. Katie's been flowing with the Tao and it's been working out for her. All right. Number four. Names in this context is symbolic of complexity. The more complicated the world is, the more names we need to label everything. Complexity leads to chaos and conflicts. Stopping the increase of names means returning to the simplicity of the Tao. So, to me, this idea of labeling or giving everything a name is the beginning of division, separation. It's the beginning of differentiating yourself from the rest of the world around you, and then we have multiple iterations of the divine, all in their own identities, and of course that would lead to chaos and conflict. Right? that would make sense. So the less we try to put labels on things and name things and put them into categories, I imagine the happier we'll be and the better the world will be as a result. Number
Can you
five.
repeat that? I'm sorry. It sounded like when we remove titles that everything's more peaceful, and I would agree with that because I created a whole TikTok one on that because that's what's gotten me through my current situation.
Yeah.
When you remove titles, you remove expectations of those titles, and you're able to see through different and many perspectives of the situation from many aspects of different point of views. And it does help bring peace even amongst turmoil,
Mhm.
chaos. Please don't rip my book.
Well, trying to label things is just separating ourselves from those things and creating division. So,
Mm-hmm.
bringing it back to just that, like you said, that observer mentality, that detached sort of oneness, definitely calms and quiets the chaos and the conflicts for
Yeah.
sure.
I am you and you are me. So
Yes.
when we look at everything as a mirror, then it really helps us see the perspective of lessons. What are we supposed to see within the chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
Oh,
always a good indication that life is out of balance then.
correct.
Right.
And if
And what are
life
we
is,
seeing right now in our country or in the whole world? Honestly, we see a lot of imbalance in,
I'm not surprised.
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like the conscious level has absolutely gone up because I don't know about you, but I've met far many people who talk about what we're speaking about now than I ever did before.
yeah.
Lots of people seem to be on this path of
Mhm.
enlightenment, which is fantastic. So, knowing the universal laws, or even when you go by the Hermetic laws, and we know the music that our universe, please put that down, speaks is through frequency and vibration. Anything that is not in tune with our current tuning fork of the earth is going to fall away. Please stop doing that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, number 5. This line is a recurring image in the Tao Te Ching. The streams in a valley flow together to form rivers and eventually pour into the ocean. This can represent all things returning to the Tao. It can also represent how we resonate powerfully with the Tao and so gravitate toward it. In this chapter, it points to how naturally everything comes together for you when you are on the path of cultivation. Everything comes together for you when you are on the path of cultivation. You are the ruler of your inner kingdom. When you wield the Tao to govern your life, every aspect of it, mental, spiritual, physical, will also fall into line naturally.
I would agree with that. I have certainly completely surrendered, and you could say from being an observer firsthand the difference between last year and this year with everything going on in my life. Although the cycle isn't very different, it is, we're getting off that cycle, and you can see the changes
Mhm.
with how the thought process, the words, and everything has changed. And now, those changes that were intentionally made are causing blessings to now come in more effortlessly as opposed to before, where it seemed like no matter what I was doing, it wasn't working the way that I wanted it to.
Mhm. It was like you were a salmon swimming upstream.
Yes. Completely different now.
Yeah.
Um,
Now you're
it
just
makes
floating on the lazy river, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't think of that on the outside, but from the inside, yeah, I feel from changing the inner thoughts
Mhm.
and emotions attached to it as well, it has created contentment and peace within, which has made it a lot easier to navigate what's going on now because I know everything that's coming in now is coming as it should be instead of trying to force things to happen the way I want them to be.
Yeah. I can definitely feel that lazy river kind of vibe coming off of you these days. Um, yeah, I'm excited for our session tonight.
Me
So
too.
that this wraps up our study for today.
Oh, that
Um,
was quick.
so
Well, I mean,
thank
it felt
you.
quick.
Thank you both for being here and contributing. being a part of this. Hopefully some of the language in the video doesn't get it
I don't feel like it should. And you know what? We're not going to put our energy over there either
yeah,
because it
yeah.
does not need that attention. It'll hit the right ears that it should, and it will continue to be up.
Amen. I love it. All right. So on that note, we're gonna go ahead and enter our time of prayer. So this ends this, and yeah, have a great day.
Okay.